so we're ready to start here. I'm actually with Sonny Gargiulo, and I think one of the things that captivated me about you, Sonny, was when I saw the word natural, all into natural. So it's a real discussion about natural horsemanship, and Sonny's known as the New York City cowboy. So before we begin, I want you to actually, I think today's society, there's a lot about natural, alternative, doing things the right way. So let's start by explaining what you mean by natural.
Well, I mean, actually it's in the presentation, but I'll explain it to you too. For me, everyone has an idea what natural horsemanship is. There's a lot of clinicians and a lot of horse people that feel one way or the other about natural horsemanship and have their own view about it. For me, I understand as a horseman that there's absolutely nothing we do with the horse that's natural. We put a saddle on their back, we feed them grain. Do you want to take that? No, that's better? Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. We put saddles on their back, we feed them grain, we put them in stalls, we ride them. And so none of that put bits in their mouth. So none of that is really natural. The natural part for me comes in understanding her dynamics and understanding the way the horse communicates with other horses. Because for me, we're supposed to be, not always, but the more intelligent being, right? So when we take that position and impose ourselves on the horse in some way, which we do, it's our responsibility to communicate to them the way they would understand. It's not their responsibility to communicate to us. So that's the way I look at it, that I want to be able to understand her dynamics. I want to be able to communicate to the horse the way the horse would understand, not the way you or I would speak. So I always equate it to something like, I would say in my expos or in my clinics, does anyone else speak another language here? Right? So if someone says, yes, I speak, do you speak another language, Miss?
Yes, I do.
What do you speak?
Spanish.
So you speak Spanish. I don't speak
Spanish.
I speak a little Spanish, but not enough to speak to you.
Yes.
So what is your first name?
Jeanette.
Jeanette. So Jeanette, if I said to you, Jeanette, say something to me, ask me to do something in Spanish.
Yo quiero que tú pones esa silla por allá.
So I have no idea what she just said. So what would happen if this young lady and myself started to communicate and I didn't understand what she was saying? At some point, I would get very frustrated, she would get very frustrated, and there would become a battle. Okay, it might be in the horse world. It could become a physical battle. It could become frustration can turn into emotional anxiety. So the idea of natural horsemanship for me, as a natural horseman, there's nothing magical to it. I'm not interested in, learning about some kind of mystical, magical thing about natural horsemanship. For me, it's really having so much respect for the horse that I'm imposing myself into their world, so it's my job to be able to speak to them. It's not their job to speak to me. Remember, one of the things I always say is that the horse was born perfect. The horse is perfect. I don't care what horse you have. You can have in your opinion, the worst horse in the world. He broncs, Sonny, he bucks, he bites, he's aggressive, he's scared. Take that horse, put him in a pasture, that same horse, and he will be absolutely perfect because he was born to be a horse. It's when the human interferes, that's when the trouble comes in. That's when the horse becomes imperfect. So that's what natural horsemanship means to me.
So one of the things I noticed is that you're from Brooklyn and you didn't start riding until you were 31.
Yes. Well, I rode trail ride and stuff, but I never really started training until I was around 31. Yeah.
Yeah. And what was it that inspired you to get involved at that point? You're talking about Brooklyn, which is an area that's not very horsey or not very inspirational to be horsey.
Yeah, I mean, well, when you think about that, right? Brooklyn's kind of, you would think it's the furthest thing from a horse, right? Well, but there are some stables there. But yes, you're right. I mean, I think what happened was, as a child, I had a sister that was sick. And she got sick when she was 2. She died when she was 9. And I wound up in a foster home, as a child. And I kind of shut down, And then as I went through my life, I had some ups and downs, right? I invented something, I became a millionaire overnight. I lost it, 2 years later. And I became homeless. And I went in my truck, eating Cheerios with water, taking ice cold showers with hoses. And that humbled me. And that made me, and the only good thing in my life at that moment, the only thing I could trust was the horse. You know, and from there, I started to, as I saw that, you know, the way I responded to the horse is what I got back. I learned humility was a great thing. You know, the lack of arrogance was a great thing. And from there, I just started to train. I met a guy, Josh Lyons, who's a good friend of mine today. And, you know, watching him, I thought I was going to see John, actually. And I wound up befriending Josh at one of his clinics, and he invited me out to his house. And it just, from there, it just snowballed. Then I started reading, and I started trying to learn, and I started working with, you know, a horse, any horse that I could work with, any troubled horse. I'd pick up and I'd work for free. And as I did, I got better. And then I started reading about, you know, the masters, like, you know, Bill Dorrance and Tom Dorrance and Ray Hunt. And I read everything I could about these guys, and I watched their videos, and, you know, and I wasn't watching the videos for the methods so much as the philosophy and the understanding of the horse that they projected. You know, they were, for me, they're the masters.
Now, you've also sort of, beyond your training, I mean, you're training all the time, but you share through clinics and things of that sort. You've been to some of the big fees, right? What are some of the memories from those clinics?
You know, I've done some amazing things for myself personally, some milestones in my life. I would have to say one of the greatest things because I've done, I represented the United States last year up in Canada as a main event in the colt starting competition.
I do want to talk to you about that.
Yeah, I do all the expos and stuff. Wayne sees me every year, Horse World Expo, Wayne Williams, a good friend of mine. But I have to say that probably one of the most rewarding things I've ever done, besides working with the thousands of horses that I worked with who are troubled horses, I rode across Long Island one time, 146 miles through the streets for autism. And, you know, when I thought about it, I had a program at that time called Hooves for Hope. And I said, you know, we got to raise some money. And I'm a horseman. How else do you do that? You know, you got to do something. And we needed to make a big splash. We wanted awareness, you know. And I said, well, what's better than, you know, riding through the streets of New York? I mean, I rode from, we billed it as America Rides for Autism because I rode part of the ride with my Mustang America. And I rode from Montauk Point to Sands Point. And we rode through traffic, and, you know, I rode through 3 thunderstorms, and it was, you know, I got threatened by the sheriff 3 times in Suffolk County to be arrested. But we, you know, we persevered, we went on, and we completed it. And that probably was one of the most rewarding things that I could think about that sticks in my mind all the time. Like, I remember that ride, remember doing it, and I probably got a lot more out of it than, you know, the people that probably deserved it.
But I actually, when I saw that you did the Mustang Challenge and the Colt, the International Colt thing, that's pretty interesting. Talk about those a little bit.
Well, you know, every horseman, if they're a good horseman, I would think, wants to better themselves. You know, you always want to, it's not so much challenging yourself, because I don't like to do that, because if I start to think about challenging myself, then what happens is the horse pays the price for that, okay? Because then the ego gets in the way. So I look more to not challenging myself, but being a better horseman. Today she can come on by, this is pretty informal. To be a better horseman, okay? Always trying to find a better way. So when I did those Mustang challenges, the first one I did, I kind of shocked myself, you know? It was the first one I had ever done. And when I got to Wisconsin, you know, I saw trainers from all over the country. You know, it was the biggest one they had ever done. It was the first one they ever done. And I was competing against guys from Texas, guys from California, you know, buckaroos from California. And here I am, a guy from Brooklyn. And, you know, how is that possible, right? But, you know, it was great. They treated me great. I remember 3 o'clock in the morning, they gave us time in the Coliseum to practice. And my horse, America, who was a wonderful horse, he rode bridleless. I taught him to ride bridleless. And it was a thrill for me, because I had some of the greatest guys and women across the country come up to me and say, Sonny, we can't beat you with this horse. He's just unbelievable. You know, where are you from? You sure you're from Brooklyn? And even to this day, a buddy of mine, Travis Ditker, who does them all the time, is a great horseman. He'll call me once in a while and say, Sonny, you know, how you doing? You still training horses? I gotta watch myself. Don't come to Fort Worth and compete, please. But it was thrilling for me, the first one. But as I got to the second one and the third one, I realized it was more about, I guess the first one was more about, I hate to admit it, but it was kind of ego. You know, there's a little bit of ego in there, like, hey, I want to do this, you know. But as I got to the second and third one, getting through that first Mustang, I realized that it's not about the competition at all. You know, and I always say this in my clinics too, it's about the journey. You know, it's not about the goal. It doesn't matter. I never set a goal for my horses. It's about the journey. What am I going to learn? What am I going to, you know, as I move forward with this horse, where am I going to be? You know, what am I going to teach him? What is he going to teach me? So the second one actually I won the trail class with. And it was funny for me because he was a very tough horse. He was a horse that had just come out of the wild 3 months before I got him, and they had just cut him. So he was very started. He was attacking me for 2 weeks. And I remember, you know, he was so sassy that I remember when I picked him up, he had not one mark on him. And he was pretty well fed. And I said, oh my God, 2 months out of the wild and he looks like this. You know, I got a handful. It took 3 wranglers to get him in the trailer. And it took me a week to get the saddle on him. And he would attack me, and you know, he'd try to kick me, try to bite me, really go after me. And then, you know, 4 weeks into it, as I'm riding him, he would stand in front of me, and I've never had this, and I've done thousands of horses. He'd stand in front of me, and he would bronc in place. He'd just look at me and stop bronking, and then stop. Like, is this horse serious? But he would do that. And he rode well. I mean, he did some, you know, he did half pass at the trot. You know, he was great. He rode beautifully. But 12 days before the competition, I got on him, and I just mounted him, and I started walking off on a long rein, and he broke in half. I don't know why. It didn't matter. But as I came across, my foot got caught on my fender. He tore my groin. I came down. There was a tree there. I hit my head as I came down off the horse. I hit my head on the tree, concussion, and then I came down off the tree and slammed my ribs against a root. So I broke my ribs. So in one day, 3 seconds, all this happened. And then he just stood there. And you know, I crawled to the fence. My eyes actually shook when I hit the tree. And I remember seeing cloudy in front of me. I crawled to the fence line and I picked myself up off the fence. And believe it or not, my first concern was, is he okay? You know, because I didn't realize how bad it was, you know, at that time. Well, for 12 hours I vomited. And people said, you got to get to the hospital, you got to get to the hospital. And I was like, I'll be all right, take some Advils, we'll be good. About 6 in the morning, they brought me to the hospital, and the doctor came out. He said 2 things to me. He said, Sonny, you must be in some great shape. I don't know how you didn't break your neck. That's how much swelling you have on your head and your neck. Number 2, you're done. No more horses. I said, what do you mean? Yeah, like that was going to happen, right, Denise? I said, what do you mean? He said, this is your 3rd concussion in 2 years. You can't do this. I went back to the horse. I put on a vest and a helmet, which I had never done before. And I rode him, and I rode him, and I rode him. When I took him to the competition, I got there. I was in 2nd place in the compulsory. I was in 2nd place, ready to go to hopefully win this thing with him. I got to the last part of it. I won the trail class already. I got to the last part, and they said, okay, Sonny, all you got to do is just simple pattern. Just trot up here, canter left, roll back, canter right. You're going to win this thing. It was actually Stormy Mullins was the guy who ran it. And I went up and I trotted him. And I went to pick up the canter, and he got real sour on me. And I picked up the canter, and he got sour, and I stopped. He rolled back, and I went to pick up the canter, and I felt it under me that he was sour, and I just stopped, and I walked him. And I just walked him out of the ring. And the guy said to me, he said, what are you doing? I said, why didn't you, you know, get after him? I said, because this horse gave me as much as he could give me in 100 days, more than I could ever ask for. I would never do that to him. I don't care about this competition. He gave me everything he had, and that was enough for me.
He told you when it was enough. Yeah. You know, I've never heard about the international colt competition. What is that? The same thing, pretty much as the challenge? Same challenge?
No, it was up in the main event. We got a call, and they said, "Hey, we have a guy from Australia, Davidson's. We have a guy, Glenn Stewart from Canada. Sonny, would you like to be the guy from America? We're going to give you 2 hours and 45 minutes to start a colt." And ride him through an obstacle course.
2 hours and 45 minutes?
Yeah. So I said, you know, I had some concerns about it, I'll be honest with you. Because I said, you know, I know that's not the way to start a call, you know. And I said, you know, how do you guys feel? And they said, no one has ever asked us this, Sonny, because most guys just jump on this, you know, like, hey, this is great, you know. I just said, I want to know how you guys really feel about, you know, putting pressure on the horse. And the guy was great up there. He said, Sonny, it's about the horse. If you don't think you could saddle him, we don't care. If you don't ride him through the obstacle, we don't care. And it really reassured me that they were on board about the horse, so I did it. And all three guys, we all saddled the horse, all three of us. We all rode the obstacle course in 2 hours and 45 minutes, or 2 days. But again, he was another horse. When I went to pick up the canner in the Coliseum, he threw a couple bucks. And I just shut him down. And I walked away from the obstacles, took off the saddle in the ring. I you know, dismounted and took off the saddle and walked him out of the ring. And, you know, to me that was important to do, you know, because he was another horse that didn't ask to be there. You know, so it was my job to be concerned about him, not so much me.
So really what you were doing was sort of getting into the mind of the horse and doing what the horse needed and not what you needed.
Well, I think, you know, any good horseman will tell you, hopefully, that you always capture the mind of the horse. You always work with the mind. I think that's a huge problem today with a lot of trainers and some people that ride, is that they're always working from the outside in. You know, they always think, well, you know, I want to get his feet over here, so, you know, the clinicians tell me I got to move the feet. Well, no, you don't have to move the feet. You got to move the mind. See, because the mind follows the feet follow the mind, right? So if I want a horse, we've all seen horses go down a rail where their neck is this way and they're just running that way, right? Because the mind is saying, hey, you know, I'm going that way, and the rider's bending their face this way, but the horse is still going. Why? Because the mind is saying, go that way. But, you know, when you control the mind, you capture the mind. And it's not my thing, this is a Ray Hunt thing. You know, I don't want to take credit for that. But when you, and he's right, when you capture the mind, then you have a horse that flows. You have fluidity. You have a willing partner instead of fighting with the horse.
And is that sort of when they become part of your herd then?
Well, here's the thing, you know, I'm not the guy to say to anyone, and I'm not looking to put anybody's methods down either, but I'm not the guy that says, well, you gotta act like a horse so they think you're a horse. You know, for me, that's an insult to the horse. My horse is smart enough to have breed recognition. My horse, just like my dog, knows when there's another dog. My horse knows my dog knows that's a dog. I've never been on a trail where I'm on a horse and a person walks by and my horse starts crying for that person, thinking, oh, geez, that might be a horse, I want to go with that person. So horses, I believe, understand herd breed recognition. So I don't try to be a horse, because I don't believe a horse. It's insulting to me to think that a horse would think that. They're not that dumb. But what I try to do is just communicate the way they want to understand, so I'm not fighting with them. Right? So if I get along with them, then everything is easier.
Sonnyisms, the Horse Lover's Guide to Common Sense.
Yeah.
So that's a book that you wrote.
Yeah.
And first of all, Sonnyisms. Why that name? Why did you start the book out with that name?
Honestly,
Mm-hmm.
when I first started, like 19 years ago, people hated me. You know, they just hated natural horsemanship. They just, you know, it's a bunch of fluff and, you know, all this stuff. And I'm not the first guy to do it. But when I came around, in my area, it was very English-based, very dressage-based. And it was like, you know, it was like throwing a piece of meat into a tiger cage. Because everything I was saying to them really was, you know, traditionally against what they thought, right? So someone actually said that one time. I had made a statement, and somebody who really didn't like me said, oh, what is this, a Sonnyism? So I said, you know what, that's a good idea. Thank you. Actually, I emailed her a couple of years later after I wrote the book. I wrote the book about 2 years ago. I said, hey, I just want to let you know, I appreciate the title, thank you. She still hates me, but that's okay.
I've actually seen you at the Hampton Classic. Hampton Classic is probably one of the best known shows in the world, not in just the United States.
Besides Horse World.
Right.
Right, Denise?
It's a plug-in.
Why not?
Much appreciated.
Yeah.
And you've actually been featured there pretty much since the early times, right?
I was very honored to do their opening day demonstration, and that's a funny story to bring that up. they called me up and they said, hey Sonny, would you do a demonstration for opening day for us with Sis, my horse? And she's a sassy mare, you know, she has her days. But I mean, I love her to death. She has her days. So we went out and I brought the Mustang and we did a great job and everybody was ecstatic, you know. It was just because they had never seen that stuff. You know, because remember, the guys that really influenced me were Josh Lyons, John Lyons, Tommy Turvey, you know, good friends of mine. I remember going back to Josh's house and meeting Tommy and saying to myself at that time, if I could be a combination of both of these guys, you know, the great horseman and the showman, the great showman, I'm going to have something here, right? So when I did it, you know, I sat my horse down. You know, the people at the classics, they're very proper, you know. They were like, you know, with their fingers, they were clapping. But, you know, they really enjoyed it. So I enjoyed doing it. 2 years later, for their anniversary, they called me up. They said, hey, Sonny, we want to have you back. We want to open up again with Sis. So my girlfriend happens to be an English rider, a trainer. Said, you got to do something bigger. You got to jump. So you got to jump. I said, well, you know, I don't really jump. You know, what am I going to jump? I jump logs, you know. I said, no, you got to jump, Sis. You ride her bridleless. So they talked me into 2 weeks before the event. I took off Sis's tack, everything off her. No bridle, no halter, nothing, no saddle. And I started practicing over jumps, just, you know, riding around and jumping and jump, riding around, jumping and jump. So at home, I did what I thought was going to be a 3-foot jump, okay? And she wound up, if you see a picture somewhere on my website, I have it also, she kind of goes to the top of the standard, and we're going over the top. I have no helmet on, I got a baseball cap on, and I'm right over the top. And after I did that jump, I did it once. I was doing smaller jumps, but that jump, I did it once. I said, I hope you guys got a picture, because I will never do that again. She said, are you serious? I said, I have a whole new respect for people who jump, because it was terrifying. It really was. You know, I was holding her mane going over this, you know, 4-foot jump. It was insane. But I did. I went to the classics and we did it. But again, the same thing. When I got to the classics, she did the 2.6. She did the 3-foot. When I asked them to raise it a little bit, she refused. She refused twice. After the second time, I apologized. I said, but I have to tell you guys, my horse, you know, comes first, and today isn't the day you're going to see this, and you'll probably never see it again. So yeah, I enjoyed that very much.
I know that you have some sort of a presentation, but I really wanted to talk to you.
I'd rather talk to you, that's
so
fine.
I think that's
yeah.
great. Is there something you did want to show, or do you want to just keep on talking?
No, I can talk to you. Well, if anybody has a question, we could do that.
Yeah, let me just ask, does anybody have a question?
Sonny, would you like a little bit of a training scenario to talk about?
Sure.
All right, we've got a 24...
Well, first we have to introduce Denise.
If we don't.
Denise is the owner, I guess you can call you the owner of the Horse World Expo, and she's here this weekend to talk about soaring, which is, you know, her passion is...
Actually, I'm here to talk about the positive ways that we can affect the horses. Everybody knows soaring's wrong.
Right.
I want to talk about what we can do to get these horses in the right place.
Solutions.
Yep, exactly,
Yeah.
solutions. But that
aside.
Let's talk about a little training scenario. We have a 23-year-old gelding. It's a gaited horse, since that's kind of what I do. Unknown background, very kind on the ground. I approach this horse as if he's never been ridden, because that's the safest way for me to approach a horse. I put a little weight in the saddle and he immediately swishes his tail. So I stop, I check the tack, I back him up, and repeat. And this time the hip comes around, the foot comes up off the ground. He didn't aim at me, but he made it very clear that if I proceeded, things were not going to go well. So I stopped, took his bridle off, put a rope halter on, and just went and worked him, and then called a local natural horsemanship trainer that I work with, because I can't afford to get hurt. I immediately bring the horse back to the barn, check him over. Work goes back, I'm not finding anything in his back. I get to his SI joint, give it a little pinch, and he just about sits down. I said, okay, well this horse clearly has back pain. He's got atrophied muscle on the right-hand side behind the shoulder. Left shoulder muscle's perfectly normal. Call the chiropractor out, get all that straightened out. He was actually locked up in the neck. One adjustment in the neck completely fixed the SI joint pain. But now I have a horse that has memory of being ridden for who knows how long with that pain. I have sent him to someone that I trust that's local that can work with this horse to rehabilitate his mind. But I'd like to hear your opinion on kind of how you would approach that from a standpoint of the average rider that may have a horse that's now starting to act up for what appears to be no good reason, because I'll tell you, when I ran my hands down that horse's back, there was no pain in the back. It was not an obvious pain until I actually got up on top of that SI and gave it a good squeeze, and that's where I found that pain. And the average rider would not look there.
Right. So one of the things I found very interesting, I just learned myself a couple of years ago. I have a friend, Keith Seeley, he's a natural hoof trimmer down in Georgia. And we talked about a horse one time that had some serious hind end problems. And he said to me, we checked the obvious. He said, Sonny, how are his teeth? I said, what do you mean his teeth? His teeth are fine, I think. So, well, sometimes when a horse has a problem in their mouth where their jaw can't operate correctly, it goes up into the TMJ and runs down their spine, and they goes right to the back end. So I always check that. But the issue that you're talking about, as far as a horse having this traumatic memory, okay, of someone riding him in pain, basically, right? So what you have to do, in my opinion, is you have to feed the horse what the horse will accept, because someone broke that trust with him, right? So we can't just assume, well, because there's no more pain, and I know you're not that way, but I'm just talking in general, right? Can't assume just because, well, he's in no pain now, so he don't have an excuse. So what I would do with that horse, honestly, I would probably work more to, well, when you sent him out, did he come back okay as far as riding?
He just left.
Okay, so I would have probably axed the saddle for now, okay, and did the Jeffers method, get on the horse bareback, even if you got to lay across him for now, and also have that so that feed it to him in a way that he's comfortable with it. We can't impose ourselves on the horse. So sometimes if you take it a little slower and say, hey, we're not going to strap you up here because I know you remember that. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay over your back for a while and get off, lay over your back. And when he's totally comfortable and I'm walking him around that way, then probably the next step I would do myself, I get a Navajo pad and then I get on him like that. I'd feed it to him where I know he would accept it. Because if I just assume, well, there's no pain, I'm going to put the saddle on, you should be okay with this. Well, he's not. He's not. And horses, the beautiful part for me that I found with horses is they're very forgiving. Okay? You can wipe that slate clean. I had a horse that I'm bringing down to South Carolina next week that flipped over in a trailer and broke his wither. The person called me up. I retrained the horse to go into the trailer. When I did that for her, the horse was very forgiving. Okay? She put the horse in the trailer, a tree fell on the trailer. The horse got hurt again. So she doesn't trust anybody to bring him down there. But she said to me, Sonny, what are we going to do? He's never going to go in a trailer again. Well, I went there yesterday and I loaded him in. Why? Because it's not about the saddle. It's not about the trailer. What it's about is how much will that horse really trust you enough to say she's going to be okay with this, or he's going to be, is it Mary you said? Or Gelding. Okay, this
little
guy.
easier.
Yeah, he's going to be, I'm going to be okay with Denise doing this. Okay, because now what you have to do, you have to offer that new deal to him, and not break that deal.
It's been twice now.
Yeah, well, I mean, her particular horse, I personally, if he was with me, I would get on his back. I'd lay over him, I'd get on his back bareback. When I got that done, when he was okay with me being on his back, and I would do that for as long as it took. I'd walk him around for whatever, an hour if I had to, and 5 days in a row. It wouldn't matter. Because ultimately, I'm trying to build the trust of somebody being on his back. I'm not trying to change, in his mind, the saddle. Because it's not really the saddle, because there's no pain there. What it is, it's the idea of this person puts the saddle on the back, the human puts the saddle on my back, and it hurts. So when the human is on my back, it hurts. So I have to change that in his mind. And that's what we talk about, capturing the mind, right? I have to change that. I have to say, hey, when I get on your back, it's not so bad, buddy. And he will decide. See, that's the other thing. I think people have to understand that you're never going to teach a horse something. They're going to learn it. You could present it to them, but they got to learn it. You talk about fear, you talk about anxiety, you talk about aggressiveness. All these things is just a horse protecting itself, right? He's protecting himself, that's what he's doing. So I can't say to your horse, what was his name?
It's Jack.
Jack, so I always ask for a horse's name, it's dignity to me. So I say to Jack, Jack, hey, trust me, Jack, it's okay, don't worry about it, you don't pain, I'm gonna put the saddle on, you're good. Who are you? Why would I trust you? But when I presented to Jack in a way, Jack, look, I'm gonna lay over your back. See, Jack, that wasn't so bad. Jack sits there, he figures it out. Hey, you know what? That's okay, I can deal with that. All right, now Sonny's walking around on him with bareback. You know what, this guy, he's not so bad. He hasn't broken the trust yet. And then I put a Navajo pad on him. I walk him around. Oh, okay, this is pretty good too. And this happens quickly because the horse is so much better than the people. You know, the human will never give you trust like that, right? And then I would introduce the saddle. And I probably wouldn't even get on him. I'd introduce the saddle first. I'm gonna keep that on for about 15, 20 minutes. And maybe work with him. Then I would introduce myself because now once I introduce myself back into the saddle, now he already knows. Well, he goes up there, it doesn't hurt. So I give it to him in a way that he can accept it, not the way I can accept it. It's not fair to him that way. And that's the way I would do that. And listen, every horse is an individual, right? Some horses it might take, 2 days. Some horses it might take a week, it doesn't matter. People ask me all the time, Sonny, how long is this going to take? And I always tell them, I don't know, ask the horse. I don't have an answer for that. It takes as long.
I want to
as
remind everyone of the panel discussions going on right now in the neighboring area. We're finishing up with Sonny Garullo right now.
Gargiulo,
Another
Gargiulo.
5 minutes. Sorry, Gargiulo.
That's okay.
Saying it too loud. So it's your last chance to catch some Sonnyisms if you want to step on over.
Hello.
We're glad to hear from you.
The one phrase that you just said, that humans will never trust you like that. I mean, that's pretty impactful because it's true. Horses are very forgiving.
One of my favorite Sonnyisms that I wrote was, everyone talks about personal space, right? You hear that from every clinician. They have to respect your personal space. But I always tell people, remember something. Every time you slip your foot into that stirrup, you're invading their personal space. Okay? It's not about you. It's not about you. You didn't ask to be there. And that's the way I always look at a horse.
I want to expand a little bit and ask you, okay, so there's the training part. Now, what about the part in the stable? What about the feeding? Do you feed like every other person feeds?
I feed grain and hay. I probably got some slack for this, but I don't like treats. I don't give treats. To me, treats promote bad behavior, okay? And it also humanizes the horse in some way. A lot of people humanize the horse. And to me, that's insulting to the horse, okay? A horse is not human. A horse doesn't want to be human. They do have human traits. I've seen horses that are happy, sad, angry, anxious, all these things, depressed. I've seen it all, right? We've all seen it. But at the end of the day, it's a horse. So I don't feed treats because I never want to break a deal with the horse. If I have a treat, and it's like me asking you, would you come in here and sweep up this floor for me today? And you say, all right, son, I'm your friend, I'll sweep it up for you, and you sweep up the floor. And then the next day I say, would you come back to my house tomorrow? I just got to clean up these chairs. Okay, and every time you come, I give you $100. The next day you pick up the chairs, I give you $100. Would you come back and clean up this? Yeah. Come back and give you $100. Well, the fifth day, I said, we got to get this stuff down. We take it all down. When you're all done, you come over to me. What do you do? Where's my $100? Oh, geez, I don't have it. Are you ever going to trust me again? No. So the idea is, when you hand a treat to someone, a horse, what's happening is besides that you're building bad behavior because they become nippy and pushy, you're also at some point you're going to break a deal. I tell a quick story because I don't have a lot of time, but I had a woman that said to me, I have a horse that will not stand at the mounting block. I said, well, that's not your problem. Your horse won't stand. I said, well, let me show you what I do, Sonny. This is what my trainer told me to do. I swear to you. And I've heard this more than once. And you're laughing probably because you know exactly what it is.
That horse.
Okay. So I get there, and the lady says, now this is what I do. Watch. So she gets up to her mounting block, and the horse stands quiet. I said, well, he looks good. She goes, now watch when I get on. She goes to get on, he moves. She puts it back over, and she brings it back again. I said, okay, now what? She goes, now watch. She reaches in her pocket, the horse reaches back, she gives him a treat, and then she gets on. I said, that is amazing. She goes, you think so? I said, I've worked thousands of horses. I'm going to tell you right now, that is the smartest horse I've ever seen. She said, why do you say that? I said, because he's got you trained perfectly. It's just, he did a great job training you. So I expect my horse to do what I teach him. Okay? I don't accommodate the horse, even as a natural horseman. I have a great respect and love for horses, but I also understand that leadership brings comfort to a horse. So when you're a leader, here's another quick story. This will be my last quick story because I got 1,000 of them. I did a clinic one year in New Jersey, and there's 100 people watching this auditing clinic at a stable. It was a dressage stable, actually. And I'm working with Sis, and a lady starts to argue with me at my own demo. She was a trainer from that barn about treats. She says, your horse loves you. My horse loves me. I'm sorry. She said, my horse loves me because I go every day and I give her, cut up carrots for her and everything. I said, well, let me ask you a question. You think Sis loves me? She said, yeah. I said, I've never given her a treat. She goes, well, she would love you more if you had a treat. Now, this is in front of 100 people, mind you, arguing at my own thing. So I said, do you have carrots here? She said, yeah. I said, would you go get the carrots? She said, yeah. She goes and gets a bag of carrots. I said, I'm going to let you do something that I would never think I would let anyone ever do. Take Sis to the other side of the ring and feed her the carrots. Well, she walked Sis over to the other side. She started feeding her. First of all, she couldn't feed her the carrots because Sis wouldn't eat them. She had to rub them on her teeth to get her to eat them because she didn't even know how to eat a carrot. So she started to eat the carrots. And I said, well, take off a halter and just keep feeding her. She kept feeding her. And at some point, I just whistled to her. Now, my horse comes at the whistle, normally. Not in horse world sometimes, but normally. Okay? So I call her, and her ears pick up, and she just bolts away from that lady. And she runs and stands next to me, and I pet her neck. The lady says, I don't understand. Why would she leave the carrots for your pet on her neck? I says, very simple. Because she would rather stand here with her leader and live than stand with your carrots and die. And that's what it comes down to. That my horse, or any horse I work with, feels comfort and safety with their leader. So if you project leadership, the anxiety goes away, the aggressiveness goes away, all that stuff goes away. Because a horse understands leadership. They don't understand carrots. And that's why I don't get treats. Yes, Wayne?
Yeah, Sonny, it kind of goes back to, and I'm not a trainer, don't misunderstand,
Well,
but
you've been around horses long enough.
a horse, whatever you do to a horse, a cause and effect. It should, if you do this, it should always mean this. They don't understand if it doesn't mean the same thing. And you're talking stories. My grandfather used to always go out in the pasture with a carrot in his back pocket, and his favorite horse would follow him all over the pasture. And eventually come up, pull the carrot out of his pocket. That was a ritual. Until the one day he's out there working on the water tank without a carrot, and the horse came up and ripped the back pocket off of his pants, okay? Then he's sitting there all upset. I said, no. He expected a carrot. This should always mean this, and if you start that, you're going right down that slippery slope.
One of the things I always tell people, especially like I just did a clinic for locally, it was called Build a Handy Horse, okay? And I tell people, ride your horse the way you want your horse to ride. Teach your horse what you want the horse to learn. I'll do demos or clinics with, let's say, people that in the hunter-jumper world. And they'll approach the jump with the horse, and the horse will maybe hesitate and stop, and they'll back that horse up. And I actually worked Georgina Bloomberg's horse one time, and we spoke about this, and I said, listen, if you teach the horse that, they're going to learn that. What do you really want the horse to learn? You really want the horse to stop and back up? Or you want to teach the horse to go over the jump? And it's the same thing when people go on trail. When you go on trail and you're riding your horse and you see that chair, you don't walk your horse to the chair and say, hey buddy, it's okay, say it's just a chair, smell it, okay, good job. Because what's going to happen? When I'm cantering down the trail one day and he sees the chair, what is he going to do? He's going to stop and say, oh, let me go look at that. Oh, it's okay, you're right, Sonny, go. That's not really what I wanted him to do. So if I taught him that, like Wayne's dad taught him, he's going to learn that. So why would I teach him that? What I really want to teach him is what I want. So never teach your horse something you don't want them to do. Because when they do it, they're going to be right, you're going to be wrong. course, the human doesn't see it that way, but that's what happens.
You know, that's something that, as a rider, I always wondered, I would never ever stop a horse in front of a jump that I wanted to jump. You know, and that, you see that so many times, so I can totally relate to that. We've come to the close of our little part of this clinic, this seminar here. But I do want you to end with one thing. You've been part of the Equus Film Festival for a while now, and obviously we're continuing to grow, and we want to keep going on with this. And I'm just curious to know what it's done for you, what you think about the Equus Film Festival, what you would share with not only the audience here, but those that we're streaming to.
Well, I mean, I enjoy coming in here because Lisa is a phenomenal horse person. For me, I met Lisa last year. She asked me to be on the panel. I've had many private discussions with Lisa. I don't just jump into things, you know. It's not like an expo where they're established, you know, Horse World Expo, Equine Fair, Virginia, all these, you know, main event. These are established, you know, things that people already know. I don't have to go checking on them. Hey, are they good people up there? Even though people speak well of you all the time. But when I get a call to do something like this, I always kind of like check a little bit because it took me 20 years to get my reputation. I don't want to ruin it, you know, by doing something. And especially this year, I did want to say something, and I don't know if it's going to be something that's controversial, but I'm going to say it anyway. I've had conversations with Lisa that, you know, there was some kind of, you know, boycott and stuff. But honestly, I applaud the people that did show up still, because whether you agree with what goes on there or not, everyone has a cause, okay? Whether you agree with it or not, you cannot not come here, because this is a venue where we can express our views. Without this, who's listening to you? I mean, this is one venue, of course. So why would you not come? You know, why would you try to destroy something that is doing good for all, for filmmakers who are making horse movies, you know, are showing light to things that are problems, and showing, you know, shedding light on things that are great about horsemanship and horses. So why would you not support this? You know, I find that very disturbing to me.
You know, we say, why would you silence voices? On Thursday night for our welcome reception, we had each artist, author, and filmmaker, and there's close to 100, each get up and talk about their film, their book, or their artwork. And now you have all of these people talking about different things, how they help military, whatever it is that they think, how they have helped themselves. There was a woman that fell off a horse, and the horse was what got her back. There's just so many different themes. Why would you want to silence all those voices?
Well, I think people get emotional sometimes, and, you know, rescue people are very emotional. You know, they have a cause, and it's a good cause. But sometimes you get, you know, you overextend yourselves, and your emotions get in the way of really what should be happening. Is, you know, the ultimate goal here is to get the message out, right? So if I could just end one more thing, I just want to tell people that I will be at the Horse World Expo this year in Maryland and in Harrisburg. But we're doing something special. I actually presented it to Denise, and I said, look, I would like to take a rescue and cold start it at your expo over the weekend, and then take it home for 40 days, or whatever, I think it's 44 days in between the two expos, and then bring it back to Harrisburg and get that horse adopted. And Denise thought it was a great idea, I hope. And you know, it serves a great purpose. You know, I get to do a cold starting, which is a great draw for people. They like to watch this stuff. I get to get my message out, my type of horsemanship that I like to use. And then we also get to rescue a horse and place a horse, which is, you know, it's a win-win for everyone. So please, if you get time and you want to go on an expo, Maryland is an awesome expo. I'm going to tell you something that I've never told you, but when I first did your expo, I was talking to Tommy Turvey, and I said, Tommy, you know, what do you think? Is it a good expo? And he said, I'm going to tell you something, Sonny. I do them all, and he does them all. He said, Maryland and I love Horse World, and I'm going to tell you why. I said, why? He said, because they're as big as they are, because they're good-sized expos, you still feel like family there. It still has that family feeling. And I did it. I think I've been doing it 3 years now, right? It's the absolute truth. When I go there, sometimes when a horse doesn't do what she's supposed to do, everyone understands. You know, it's just everyone is very, the people that run it, Denise, Amy, who's the other lady? Bonnie, right.
Donna.
All those folks, they're just good people. Ray, good people. And I really enjoy going there. You know, sometimes It's not even about profit. It's not profitable for me to go there, but I'm not there for profits. I'm there to get out there, be part of that, you know, and that's why you gotta support this. That's why you have to support those expos, because if we don't have this, we have nothing. So when you boycott the Equus Film Festival, you boycott the carriage horses, you're destroying the industry that we're in. You know, if you want to go after those things, like the people who go after the carriage horses, I don't understand it. I really don't. You know, more horses get hurt on the track. More horses get hurt in the hunter ring.
In car accidents.
In car accidents. I mean, it's just silliness. We're all horse people. So that's my rant.
Sonny Gargiulo, the natural horseman.